Note, I want to invite our special guest speaker, Dr. Ahamed Shaheed, who's the Special Rapporteur on freedom of religion or speech, to deliver a short statement on his views about Sri Lanka. Dr. Ahamed Shaheed, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, organizers, for inviting me to say a few words at this very important meeting. I visited Sri Lanka as part of my mandate in 2019, before the current government took office. And in my travels, it was evident to me the country was still a deeply wounded country with very little effort made to heal the wounds. And of course, everything since then actually has, I think, made things worse. So I share all the concerns raised here about the important point we are today in making sure that the international community responds well to do what it can to turn back this tide of hatred and intolerance that is sweeping through the country. As noted on February 5 in the joint statements with 9 other special procedure mandate holders, Sri Lanka is rolling back hard-fought progress made in recent years in building democratic institutions. We just heard from many speakers about the different aspects of this. The assessment that we made, we had some 400 recommendations for the 10 visits that we made over the past 5 years. And given the deficits in implementing them, we called the Human Rights Council to continue efforts to increase independent human rights monitoring in the country to ensure accountability for past crimes. So as you have said, it is vital that there be a resolution that will support the accountability process, help all communities, including the government, to look at these issues and engage with them. Among the most concerning issues to me include threats to independent institutions and the rule of law. We heard details of how these things have been sort of dismantled, and it's increasingly becoming a one-man state, increasing militarization, and what this means moving forward to civil society, civic liberties in the country. Already there are very strong restrictions on assembly, association, and expression as well, not just in terms of the restrictions in law, but also in the rampant hate speech that is started with the impunity and what that does to speech for the people who wants to express themselves in the public sphere. And of course, discrimination against vulnerable groups, incitement to hatred, and violence against minorities. Of course, legal safeguards, detention conditions, and torture. These are issues we all raised in our visits, and we haven't seen much progress in this. Enforced disappearances, and of course, the key one, impunity and lack of progress in justice, in the justice process. So these have been the main elements we expressed concern just a few weeks back here in Geneva. We are particularly concerned about the discrimination against vulnerable groups, incitement to hatred and violence against minorities. Example is the forced cremation of persons dying of the COVID-19 pandemic. That is a disgrace. There was no medical justification for it. Nowhere in the world was this seen as a legitimate policy imperative. And no one in this medical community believes there was any merit in this. And it only was designed to target the minorities, to humiliate them and to harm them and to demonstrate that they are not welcome in Sri Lanka anymore. We are concerned that even the adjustment made to these plans, I said recently that any solution offered must not be illusory, but must be practical. I'm getting evidence that what is being offered as an option for burial is not feasible. It is discriminatory, it imposes a disproportionate burden to the community, and therefore it still remains, for me, unlawful. Moreover, the new wave of cabinet paper and proposals, including the ban on the full face veil, again is a disproportionate restriction on freedom to express oneself and also one's just a belief. And the proposal to close down 1,000 madrasas, as well as the more recent, gazetted policy measures on de-radicalization. These are warning signs of something worse to come in the country unless the brakes are put on these very dangerous proposals that have been put forward. And of course, the recent government signal that in implementing the recommendations of the commission that inquired into the bombings 2 years back, that it would not accept the recommendation, the action against the BBS, which has been implicated in a number of incitement to violence in the country. And it is incomprehensible why the government would refuse to accept that particular recommendation unless it was not serious about taking steps to protect all communities against hatred and violence that comes from extremism. Now, even if the government had valid security concerns, and of course all governments do, the measures taken must be legal, proportionate, and necessary. They must demonstrate that the measures taken fit these criteria. If these minimum thresholds are not met, the real intention behind such moves are open to question, and I think we should question why that is the case. So I support the call. I think it's imperative for the Human Rights Council to adopt a strong resolution in Sri Lanka to ensure the accountability for past crimes and to deliver justice for victims. And of course, to promote truth and reconciliation for everybody. As I think Shireen said moments ago, what we're talking about is not to support one community, but it's something for everybody in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka as a whole needs to heal. Sri Lanka as a whole needs equal protection for everybody. Sri Lanka as a country needs to make sure it remains democratic and remain open society without surrendering to the fantasies of extremists and others who are driving an exclusionary agenda. I will stop here by again reiterating my call to the members of the council to not dismiss the opportunity to have a strong resolution that will ensure the council's preventive agenda, both focusing on structural prevention and operational prevention, are put into place. Now is the time to act on Sri Lanka. Thank you.